Aloha everyone. I'm here with Meleane Unga, Seini and Sela Unga. And we welcome Auntie Meleane, who is a breast cancer survivor, and Seini and Sela are her daughters, caregivers, and they're just going to share with us their experience. But before we start, I'm going to ask Auntie to please give me your full name.
My name is Meleane Unga.
And
do I need to say my age?
You can, if you feel comfortable with sharing your age.
And I am 64 years old.
64. And aging beautifully. What was the date that you were diagnosed?
I do not know the date, but it was in June of 2001.
June 2001.
Yeah,
and oh yes, that's good. What was your diagnosis?
My prognosis was a stage 2B. So there were 2 tumors that more than 2 centimeters, and also my lymph nodes involved.
How were you able to let your family know about your diagnosis?
I waited until I had my result. So I went in for a mammogram, and the way I found it out, it was when I went to take a shower, I wrapped my towel and I hit a little thingy on my breast. It was my right breast. So I called the doctor's office immediately to make an appointment and let them know. But prior to my diagnosis in 2001, 3 years before, they found a tumor on the same area through mammogram. And I went to and they said there's water inside and it's nothing. So, but I went to the doctor for 6 months, once a month, for them to check. So after 6 months, it's gone. Then 3 years later, it surfaced again with stuff. So after mammogram, follow up with a ultrasound. And because I live far from the hospital, this is the hospital in Honolulu and I in the North Shore. When I went in for my ultrasound, the doctor decided that I will have biopsy right there and then. So I do not have to make an appointment to come back again for biopsy. So I had a biopsy in the doctor's office, which is in the hospital. And then I came home. 2 days later, then the doctor called with the news.
Seini and Sela, do you guys remember when your mom came home and told you that she was diagnosed with cancer?
I remember they called all of us together and they had us sit down, and I remember when my mom said she was diagnosed with cancer, at that point, for me, my experiences were that when we heard somebody who had cancer in the community, it was like, oh, well, then they're going to die. And so it's kind of hard to like not think of that, like jump to that kind of conclusion when the only experiences you've had with cancer were the people that ended up, losing their battle to it. And so I remember being really sad, like full of emotion, not knowing how to process what was being shared with us. But I also remember my mom being super, she was trying to be super positive in the way that she gave us the news. Yeah.
And how old were you?
I was 15.
You're 15. And Sela, do you remember? And how old were you?
I was going into be 8th grade at that point, so I guess I was 13. Um, and to be really honest, I don't remember much, but I do remember when my parents set us down to let us know what was going on. But at the same time, like my eighth grade brain at that time, like I don't know if I really processed what that meant, or like what it was going, like what our family was going to look like after that, or how we were going to deal with it. Just because I was so young. I don't, I mean, I remember, yeah. So that's, I mean, at that point, from like at that moment, like at this point in time right now, that's kind of what I remember. But I can't tell you like that I remember things like super clearly or like specifically.
And this question is for all of you. What was something that helped comfort you throughout your cancer journey, Auntie? And then Sela and Seini, what helped comfort you folks as you helped your mom through her cancer journey?
So when I received my prognosis from the doctor, I was thinking, okay, breast cancer. I did a little research prior to my consultation with the doctor, with all the medication that I will take, treatment and stuff like that. So the breaking of the news was done over the phone. So the doctor called me about 2 days later and told me good news and bad news, and said, good news, it can be treated. Bad news, it went in, the lymph nodes was not revealed until after the surgery. So, but the good news, it can be treated. So I did some research, and the rate of survival for my stage was very high. So I was waiting for the doctor to do the consultation. When I went into the consultation, the first question come to mind was, I was asking the doctor, how long will I live? So I can prepare myself and my family. The doctor said 10 years, or it depends on my treatment, how my body react to the treatment. So I went from there. I said, 10 years. That is wonderful. That is plenty time for me to get my children ready. I believe at that time, my youngest was 5 years old. Yeah, my youngest was 5 years old. So the three older children, 15, 13, and 11. So I said, okay, 10 years old, 10 years, that will give my youngest child 15 years. So it was fine. So for me, and one of the things that came to mind at that time, I said to myself, well, breast cancer and my stage, if I have flu, people can die from flu, and people can survive from flu. So I took it that way, that I can be treated and I can be okay, or if my body doesn't react to the treatment, then, it's my time to go. So that's what gave me. The other thing was that my family, they were all behind me. And my children, I knew that they were a little bit young, but my husband was my best supporting, and also my nurse. So that's give me hope during my treatment.
Thank you, Auntie. Ini, Lala?
I think it was time, honestly, because how would I say this? Because I want to say, like, we weren't exactly told, we didn't have the same knowledge that my mom had about her diagnosis, only that she just was always trying to be positive about, what she was going through, and that I thought it was a little bit morbid when she started preparing for her death, but you know, our family is always prepared. And isn't afraid to talk about death and the preparations that is needed for a funeral and after the funeral. So, you know, but it was still hard to process for me being 15, being the oldest. Um, that was hard. That was hard to, and I don't think I really quite processed when I was that age. I think because we are very religious, come from a very religious background, church helped a lot. Um, I was a youth at that time, so my youth leaders helped a lot. Um, because I think too, like when you're one of the oldest kids, there's a lot of responsibilities that are put on the oldest kids, and so uh, having church and having the youth program to remind us that we're kids, still learning, still growing, helped. Um, Reminded me to still have fun, even though at times I felt very scared for my mom and her, her journey with cancer, not knowing really what was going to happen. Yeah. So I think it helps. It would help kids, especially to have an honest conversation about like what is really happening. Because nobody likes to be left in the dark. Yeah, and just help kids kind of understand like where you're at and how each person in the family can help the other process what's happening. I think is something that would be important for families who go through this type of journey.
Thank you, Seini. And that's so funny how you were talking about how our family likes to talk about funerals and things. I think one time I came to your house and you were telling me that your mom was making her funeral program and you were laughing about it, but I think you were serious. But I'm so glad that we had our advanced care planning workshop and we'd had that conversation as well as a family. But Sela, did you want to share what helped you?
Yeah, sure. I I mean, I don't necessarily have the same experience that like Saini had. And again, I don't want to say it's because of my age, but I mean I'm looking at this retrospectively. And so I don't remember a lot, but what I do remember is that like I like I don't think I had that same burden maybe that Saini felt, but being like the second oldest, I was like, okay, we have a plan at least. Like when my mom was sick, we were at least informed about like the treatments that she was gonna have to receive. And so what we were also, I guess we also talked about like how we would need to help around the house and like how we would need to help with our siblings. And that's something that I think was basically like second nature to us because our parents were both working like all the time. And I don't remember if my grandma was living with us at the time, but she always lived with us at some point. And so like helping around the house, doing things to make sure like my mom felt comfortable, I think was helpful because then at least like you don't feel like at maybe that young of an age that there's a lot that you can do, but I think having some kind of plan and then making sure that you do your part, I think was something that was helpful for me. To know that I could at least do something at my age to be a help and not necessarily like a hindrance or like a roadblock to this whole process. So that was helpful.
No,
Aside, oh, go ahead, Sini.
no, go, keep going.
Yeah, no. So I think that was something that was helpful to me. I think in my brain, because it's not like I knew the medical diagnosis, like the extent to what kind of effects the treatment was going to have on her and her body. But I knew what my role was and what I needed to do to help out, to make sure that like everything else was still running smoothly, because we were still in school. Like things still had to get done. We had to eat, we had to do our homework. So yeah.
I think that's true. Like, you know, if young families, you know, do end up having a family member that has cancer, I think making sure that every family member has something to do to contribute to the, you know, the running of the house. I like what Sela said, because it, you know, I appreciate her point of view, because we have very different experiences with mom's cancer and like our roles in it. But she brings up a good point. Like, if all of us didn't have a role to contribute in the house, I can imagine, you know, that causing some kind of, you know, some other kind of hardship for a family member. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Can I touch on something, Lina?
Yes.
So my cancer, on the day that I went in for my surgery, they have to shoot dye to the area where the tumor is, so the doctor can see clearly. When I went into the room that they shoot the dye, I was looking at the monitor, and I saw 2 tumors right above each other. And so when I came out of the room, I told my husband that I have 2 tumors. I saw it on the screen. So I went into the surgery, and when I came out, the doctor came to check on me, and I was still out. And so my husband asked her, "Did you remove 2 tumors?" And the doctor said, "No, there was only 1 tumor." And my husband told her, "My wife said that she saw on the monitor 2 tumors." And so the doctor left, and my husband sat in the room waiting for me to wake up. And he was upset. And so when I woke up, he said, "Mom, I asked the doctor if she removed 2 tumors." And she said, "1 tumor only." And he said, "I wanted to have a hole right beneath me so I can drop out of this stuff for the question that I asked her." That was on a Friday that I had my surgery. On Wednesday, the following week, I went back to work on Monday. I was supposed to pull a little tube from the side of my body that has fluid on like a few more days, but it stopped. The bleeding was stopped. And so I went to work on Monday. On Wednesday, the doctor called me at work. And he said, "Mrs. Unga, are you sitting down or are you standing?" I said, "I'm standing." She said, "I have good news and bad news, but I want you to sit down." So I sat down, and she said, "Which news you would like to hear?" I said, "Hit me with the bad news and then the good news after." She said, "I am so sorry, but there is another tumor. I did not review your x-ray on that morning." And I said, "Hold that thought. I'll call my husband and put him on the phone." He was yelling at the doctor. So I let him yell. And so after he yelled at the doctor, I said to the doctor, she gave me a few options to take. Do not remove, just do a lumpectomy to remove the tumor. I can And yeah. And what I told her, a few other options. And she said, we can just leave it and then revisit again. After she give me the options, I said to her, listen, you made a mistake. I will tell you what to do. You schedule immediately a mastectomy. And she said, no, don't do a mastectomy. You can just do a lumpectomy. I said, no, another lumpectomy. It's my breast is small. So no, you just do what I tell you. Schedule. When a week later, I had the second surgery, which is a mastectomy. The tumor was 2.5 centimeter, and it was cancerous, and also spread to the lymph nodes. This is on the same breast. If I chose not to do it, I will not be here today. And one of the things that I wanted to do the mastectomy, so I do not go through the radiation. 5 weeks, once a day, driving to Honolulu, take about an hour, which I already have my family lined up to do that for me after my chemo. And I said, oh, okay, that's okay. Mastectomy, that's fine. And that's eliminate the radiation. I think if I didn't watch that on the monitor in the morning that I don't think I will be here by now. So have to be aware of our situation and make the best out of it. And still I'm here. In regards to Seini and Sela, I was grateful. I have Mom with us. Mom was with us, but she was scared to see my surgery. Seini was the one that helped me to shower me and everything. And so I think I spooked out Seini. She wanted to be a nurse. In her small, she said, I want to be a nurse. I think I spooked her out. But she was my great helper. Sela, on the other hand, had a chance. Because 6 years later, my other side had cancer. And Seini was on her way to serve her mission. So Sela stepped in and she did a wonderful job. That's my little spiel on that.
Seini and Sela, were you guys aware that there were two tumors and of this whole incident that happened where they didn't know?
I mean, maybe. I'm pretty sure it was shared with us, but I don't think it was shared with us the first time. Because I don't remember. I only remember when Mom got the double mastectomy. I don't remember the first surgery. And I think it's too because she went right back to work on Monday, like she said. So it didn't seem like it was a huge change. But the double mastectomy, that was a huge change because her recovery was a lot longer than the first surgery. And so I got to see like the bag, the drain, the fluid draining from her side, and like saw her body change and how how it affected her afterward. And it didn't spook me, like, because like we all grew up together and we all have this understanding that if a family member needs to be taken care of, it's like first nature, you jump in and you do it. But like, I think we still forget that we have to process things. Like, there has to be time for us to talk about it and like understand. Does that make sense? And so like, spooked by it, no. Just like with my 15-year-old mind, not knowing what could happen or like, what does this mean? And I think those are important conversations to have with when you have young kids, because they're just like, well, what does this mean for me? What is going to happen to my mom? What is going to, or my dad, or what's going to happen to whoever it is that that happens to have cancer? Like, how does this really affect them? As a 15-year-old, I only saw how it made my mom hurt, how it changed her body, but it never changed her spirits, which was also a good thing to see. So you see that resilience, that strength, that courage. And maybe it was my dad who saw her more scared than anything. Yeah. So as a kid, I never saw mom scared through her battle.
I have a question. Unless you have something to add, Sela?
I don't, well, I was just thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think mom had a double mastectomy the first time. I think she just removed one breast. But I remember, what was your question again?
So my follow-up question would be, looking at how you guys experienced a very shallow understanding of breast cancer at the moment. Seini explained in the beginning, her only knowledge of cancer at the time was, if you have cancer, then you're going to pass away. How can we better educate our youth today about breast cancer?
Well, that's go ahead.
I think, I see it now more in sort of is normalizing things, right? Because not everybody dies from cancer. To understand that there are different stages, and with each stage, I guess there are different results or things that can happen in those stages. I think understanding what you can do in order to battle cancer in whatever stage that you're at, but also provide support. Having people talk to the kids. Sometimes parents try their best to explain things to children, and sometimes they don't get the point across. And even though they're the people that spend the most time and are the closest to the children, sometimes they can't. There's certain things that parents cannot explain well to their children, and that's when other people should come in to help explain, and not just for the kids but for the family as a whole. And being an adult and knowing that there are people who that's their job, to help support families through these types of transitions. And I think not I don't know if making cancer and cancer awareness should be for everybody, but the specifics about cancer usually won't be important to a person unless it's affecting somebody close to them. And so when in that situation, how can we disperse information to them that they can access so that they can feel supported and not blinded through it, I think is important.
Sela, did you have anything to share?
No, I think I agree with what Amy said. I think today, we definitely just have more access to information, but having a person that is able to communicate that information to people that are at different ages and different stages of life could definitely be helpful. But also I think it just needs to be something that families need to be willing to do, is have open and honest conversation about things. And I think we were just lucky in our case that my mom, she shares, and sometimes she overshares, and so for us it wasn't an issue of not knowing what was going on, because she was very open about sharing her diagnosis and what kinds of things are going on, even if we didn't necessarily have a full understanding of what that meant. But we were at least informed like of what was going on and how we could help and what we could do at kids at our age at that time. And then even the second time when she was diagnosed with cancer the second time, I think we were a little bit older, but we had gone through the process. And so it was just a little bit easier to kind of step in and help where she needed us to help and support.
Thank you. And Auntie, did you have any family history of breast cancer?
I didn't have family. Usually the breast cancer, according to medical, is run in the female. But in my case, I had a first cousin, but her dad is my uncle. And she passed away when she was 44 years old. She had breast cancer. So it didn't run in. I was the lucky person in the whole entire family on my mother's side and in my siblings that have breast cancer. And so I also did Sela read the report. I did a test to see if my children, if my girls.
Yeah, she did like a gene test. Like she tested her.
Yeah.
What that was it, right? It was some kind of a DNA or like gene testing.
Yeah.
Some kind of genetic testing.
Testing, yeah.
And then it came out that negative, right, Sela? But it says something. So, but regardless of that, the hospital, because we were with a particular insurance, and I was diagnosed when I was 43 years old. My girls, they said that when they turn 25, they will start having mammogram because of my history. And so, it's something that we need to make sure that the girls go with it because they might have a chance, and it's something that they need to be aware of it and make sure that they check themselves. If there's any cyst or whatever, that they need to contact their health care to make sure that it's not because it's wrong. My sister, older sister, just had diagnosed with breast cancer. And so she is 65. She's going through chemo now. She's fine. We talk about chemo and stuff like that. And she has other health issues, so it's a little bit hard for her chemo, but she's fine. And so these are the things that we need to have our family be aware of it. Breast cancer is not a death threat sentence anymore. It can be cured if you take care of it immediately. Yeah.
So my mom talked about us having to get mammograms starting age 25, and so since I turned, and I'm pretty sure Stella does the same. Since turned 25, we've been doing mammograms. And there was a time where they found something that they wanted to do a biopsy. So I've been through a biopsy and currently do breast ultrasounds every 6 months to monitor. And so now for me, I'm very familiar with, I'm not afraid to go in and get a mammogram. Is it uncomfortable? Yes, it's very uncomfortable. They pull your boob and they smash it with the machine, but going through the whole process, like I'm very familiar with it. I'm not scared. And I think it's because we've been educated from such a young age that, this is something that we're going to have to do in order to take care of ourselves. So it's just like going to do a physical. When you become familiar, you're not scared of it anymore. And I think that's another thing is that, with experience and with knowledge, you become less scared of something that maybe was once a very fearful thing.
I know Sela mentioned to me one time that she had a mammogram appointment. And so at age 25, you start having annual mammograms. And then now it's every 6 months, or is it every 6 months if they want to monitor or something?
So for me, it's the mammograms are annual, and then the breast ultrasounds are every 6 months. And then if, they just kind of monitor that. I've had like a couple cysts that there are a couple cysts in that they're monitoring to make sure there's no like, that it's not cancerous, that it's, that everything's okay. And so if everything becomes clear, then they'll do it every year. But so far, since like 2000, I want to say 2014 or 2015, I've been getting breast ultrasounds every 6 months.
Sela, did you have anything that you wanted to share about your experience with mammograms, breast ultrasounds?
I mean, not the only thing that I've been getting those mammograms. I've been doing annually, and then I also do I think it's just Kaiser, but I also get a breast MRI done annually too. So I get it. It's 6 months after the mammogram I get, then I do but it's annually. You know what I mean? So it's nice, but I think like in general, like the whole process of going through this is just, it's been helpful for me to like be comfortable with asking questions to doctors about just my general health. And no question is stupid because we're not medical doctors, but at the same time it's just like being comfortable with knowing that you have different options, and if anything were to happen, you have control of like what you want to do and how you want to take care of any like situation that arises, whether it be cancer or it be diabetes or whatever. You have the control to say that like this is what I want to do, whether it's using like Western medicine to take care of the problem, or use like some kind of holistic healing, or a mix of both if that works best for you. But I think like aside from the fact that like preventative measures are like something that you should consider if a family member has gone through something like this, like you should definitely just be comfortable with talking to your primary care physician about like what your healthcare plan is. And if you have questions about like mammograms, if you had a parent that had breast cancer, like that's something that's okay. And scheduling like an annual mammogram for yourself, or like if you're male, even male or female, or just like feeling comfortable with the process is something that you have to get used to. But also just like you should feel comfortable asking any kind of questions, because you don't know until you ask. So
I think that's really important. So you know how I'm currently going and taking Joe to his appointments, and he never asks any questions. Like we'll go and see his oncologist and we'll sit there and the doctor will ask him questions, but he will never ask the doctor questions, and I'm the one asking the doctor questions. But maybe sometimes I think it's the way he was raised. Don't really ask any questions, you just listen. But do you feel that there are anything culturally, so we're Pacific Islander women, we're Tongan, is there anything from our culture that would be a barrier to our people better navigating through their cancer with physicians and their doctors and their appointments, that you guys would want to give them more advice on?
I think something that we were like for our situation, for our family, I think it was my mom's example of her navigating through, you know, through her appointments, through her whole diagnosis, through everything, kind of like helped us to be more vocal. Like she's not afraid to ask or to say something. Um, so I still think though that sometimes culturally, you know, doctors, we assume that doctors know what they're doing and we just trust, right? And I think sometimes we need to like trust our intuition. Like if there's something that we feel like is not right, that we should be unafraid to speak up or be unafraid to, ask for a second opinion, that it's not us being disrespectful. But that it just shows that we care about our care, our medical care, like how Celeste says, like we have control. And I think that's something that all people, islanders and everybody alike, should understand, that they have control, that they have a right to speak up, to ask for how they want their care issued to them. And or it's just, I don't know. I do think sometimes maybe it's like a language barrier, or sometimes somebody just feels uncomfortable, doesn't know how to express it clearly. And so, I mean, I get it. And I think when we have family members join us on appointments so that they can help us. But that definitely has to be a conversation within the family first. Like, what do you want? And that advanced health directive thing, that I liked that meeting we had, because it really does put you in a position where you need to be very clear in communicating what you want.
Thank you, Amy. This has been a beautiful interview, and I'm so grateful to have you wonderful, powerful women to speak up about your breast cancer journeys and how it's affected your family, how it has helped to strengthen your family. And I know that this interview will definitely help to strengthen families out there who are going through the same thing currently. But to close, I just want to pose this last question. What would be your message? So having experienced your mom's amazing breast cancer survivorship journey, what is the message that you folks want to give to other families or to our community to let them know about breast cancer and to empower them through their journey? And we'll start with you, Sela, and then we'll go to Seini, and then we'll end with Auntie.
I don't know. I think my message is that I think culturally a lot of the times we as a people we listen, and we listen and we take advice from people that we know have that might have like a certain degree or certain title in their name, and that's fine, and I think that's great. But I also think that if you are going through something like this, if you are helping a family that is dealing with cancer and a diagnosis of cancer, that it's important to ask questions. And like Seini said, if you maybe have some things that you like you're in your gut that don't sound right to you, then it's okay to speak up and advocate for yourself. And the only other thing is just to make sure you have conversations with your family, with your kids if they're still young, and make a plan. And that really helps, especially young kids who are experiencing something like that with a parent or with a sibling, to feel like they are contributing in a positive way.
I think Sela said it beautifully. Self-advocacy is something that our island people need to take a hold of. We're strong people, and I think, we have the power. We should remember that we have the power and control for our health. And then, being able, cancer, for our family, I feel like it brought us closer together. Um, it didn't perfectly bring us together, but it strengthened us because we all had a common goal of helping mom get better. And that was huge. And I think, there's no other love than having a common goal as a family, um, to strengthen and to help one another. And so just reminding families that, in hardships is where we can grow the closest if we communicate.
I think as a survivor, one of the important thing is as for me as a survivor, I never cry. I never show my emotion. But for other people, it's okay to cry and show your anger, your emotion, because when you release that, the emotion, it helps you to battle. And so for me, because I was not scared, I do not know what overcome me, that in my mind, it's just like a flu. I'll be fine. I'll go through this and get sick and stuff like that, but I'll go through with it. But I think that some of my emotions was that I was scared to share a lot of the information with my children due to their ages. I did not want to scare them. So, I just leave it as it is, and whatever responsibility was given to them, they did a good job of helping. I have my mother at the time in the house. When the children left for school, she does most of the cleaning, but she was scared to come close to me. All she does is come and feel my forehead and ask if I need something. Other than that, she was scared to look at my body for my for my bandage and stuff like that. She did not want to deal with it. But her help was that, if I may share, she always come and kneel beside my bed, thinking that I'm sleeping, and say a prayer. And so I think that was the strength that given me throughout my hard time, because it took me a week to get a little bit better. And I decided that for the last 2 weeks before I had my next round of chemo, is to go to work and work 4 hours. And so I will be very sick for 1 week, throw up and everything. But on the second week, I will show up to work and I work for 4 hours. At home is my mother that helps to clean the house and to say a prayer on my behalf. And I think that's what strengthened me. We need to show our emotion, whether we cry, whether we are angry or whatever. It's okay to show our emotion. At the same time, we need to be prepared. And like what it was said before, my family is kind of weird. I planned my funeral, and I told my husband if I passed away, I would like him to get married so somebody can help him raise the kids. And I think I told my children, be nice to the woman that your father married. Because sometimes it's hard for the children to take that as a replacement. But for me as a mother, I wanted them to have a good relationship. If there's anything happened to me and that my husband cannot be able to raise them, somebody will be able to help my husband to raise the children. And so these are the things that, some women might not want to do that. On my case, it was different. I was telling my husband, and my husband was not happy with that. So just be open with your family. And I think you need to acknowledge their help and be grateful for what they do. And I think that was one thing that helped my recovery, is to see my children help me. And I wanted to get better because I see that they have a love that, even though they were young, they were mature beyond their age. And so when we have family members or somebody in the community that goes through this, and we know we can be able to help them. I have two best friends that has gone through this. And one of the lady, we used to go and visit the other person. And so it was funny because we said, we're the cancer sisters. And so both of them gone, but they gave me strength. And so my survivor is, I will have a turn. And I will not know that, but I have to be prepared for that time. And that's all I can say. Thank you, Lina.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you, Seini, and thank you, Sela, for your beautiful testimonies and for strengthening us with your experiences. We've definitely learned a lot, and I think one of the main themes here is family, and bringing the family together strengthens the journey at hand. And I love you guys, and thank you so much for being here. And mahalo.